The porcelain doll's head hung at an unnatural angle, connected to its body by a single fraying thread. Marcus Thornfield stared at it, his $1,000 espresso forgotten on the marble table before him, as the small girl with tangled brown hair clutched the broken toy against her chest like it contained her entire world. "Mister, can you fix my toy?" Her voice cracked on the last word. It was our last gift from Dad. Marcus had chosen this particular cafe in the financial district precisely because children didn't frequent it. The minimalist interior, with its cold steel fixtures and abstract art, discouraged families. He came here to think, to plan, to exist in a bubble where the messy complications of human emotion couldn't reach him. Yet here stood this child, maybe 7 years old, with dirt smudged on her cheek and shoes that had seen better days, holding a broken doll and looking at him like he held the power to mend what was shattered. "I don't fix toys," Marcus said, his voice coming out harsher than intended. He gestured vaguely toward the door. "There's probably a toy store a few blocks down. They might have someone who can help." The girl didn't move, her dark eyes, too old for her young face, studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You have nice hands," she said simply. Dad always said people with steady hands could fix anything. He was a carpenter before he got sick. The past tense didn't escape Marcus's notice. He felt something twist in his chest. An old ache he'd buried under years of business deals and corporate mergers. He looked down at his hands, manicured and soft, nothing like the calloused hands of a man who worked with them, nothing like his own father's hands had been. "Where's your mother?" Marcus asked, glancing around the cafe. The other patrons, absorbed in their laptops and business conversations, hadn't noticed the girl. Or perhaps they'd simply chosen not to. "Outside." "She's crying again." The girl said it, matter-of-factly, without judgment. She does that sometimes when she thinks I can't see. But I always know. I can hear it in her voice, even when she's smiling. Marcus felt the carefully constructed walls around his heart develop a crack. "What's your name?" "Emma. And this is Lily." She held up the doll. "Dad gave her to me and my sister on our last Christmas together. He made her himself, carved her from wood and painted her face. See?" She turned the doll to show him the delicate features. Hand-painted with obvious love despite the artist's amateur skill. He said Lily would always watch over us when he couldn't anymore. The cafe suddenly felt too warm. Marcus loosened his tie. A gesture that would have surprised his board members who'd never seen him show discomfort. "Your sister, Sophie. She's 5. She's been crying since Lily broke yesterday. She won't eat or sleep. Mom doesn't know I brought Lily out to find someone to fix her. She told me some things can't be fixed, that we have to accept when things are broken." Emma's chin jutted out stubbornly. "But I don't believe that. Dad wouldn't want us to believe that." Marcus picked up his espresso, discovered it had gone cold, and set it down again. He'd spent the last 15 years building an empire, turning a failing tech startup into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He could negotiate deals that made seasoned executives sweat, could read market trends that others missed, could fire 100 employees without losing sleep. But this little girl with her broken doll and her quiet faith had managed to do what no one else could. She'd made him feel something. "I'm not a carpenter," Marcus said finally. "I don't know how to fix dolls. But you could try." It wasn't a question. Emma simply stated it as fact, as if his trying was a foregone conclusion. Before Marcus could respond, a woman burst through the cafe door, her face flushed with panic and relief. "Emma. Oh God, Emma, you can't just run off like that." She was younger than Marcus expected, maybe early 30s, with the same brown hair as her daughter, pulled back in a hasty ponytail. Her clothes were clean but worn, and she carried herself with the exhaustion of someone fighting battles on multiple fronts. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was looking for someone to fix Lily." Emma held up the doll, the mother's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Emma close, then noticed Marcus for the first time. Her expression shifted to embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. Did she bother you?" "Emma, we talked about this. You can't approach strangers. He has nice hands, Mom, like Dad's." The simple statement hung in the air. The mother's eyes met Marcus's, and in that moment he saw everything. The grief still raw despite however much time had passed, the struggle to raise 2 daughters alone, the weight of being both mother and father, and beneath it all the fierce love that kept her standing. "I apologize," she said again, taking Emma's hand. "We'll go." "Wait." The word escaped Marcus's mouth before his brain could catch up. 3 pairs of eyes turned to him, Emma's hopeful, her mother's wary, and his own reflection in the cafe window, showing a man who looked as surprised as anyone. "I might know someone who can help." He didn't, but as he looked at Emma's face light up, he realized he was going to become that someone. "You don't have to do this," the mother said. "Emma shouldn't have imposed, Sarah." Emma interrupted. "His name is Marcus Thornfield." He extended his hand to the mother. "And you are?" "Sarah Chen." Her handshake was firm despite the uncertainty in her eyes. "And really, you don't have to. Mom, don't talk him out of it." Emma's voice rose with alarm. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. and Marcus recognized the look of a parent choosing their battles. "Emma, what do we say?" "Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Will you really fix Lily?" Marcus looked at the doll again, at the hand-carved wood beneath the painted porcelain overlay, at the love imbued in every imperfect detail. His father had been a craftsman too, a furniture maker whose hands could coax beauty from rough lumber. Marcus had rejected that life, pursuing business school and the corporate world, dismissing his father's trade as beneath him. They had barely spoken in the years before his father died, and Marcus had been in Singapore closing a deal when the hospital called. He'd made it back 3 days after the funeral. "I'll try," Marcus said, "but I'll need a few days. And Emma, you need to understand sometimes things break in ways that can't be perfectly fixed. But that doesn't mean they can't still be beautiful." Emma considered this seriously, then nodded. "Dad always said the cracks in things show their history. He showed me this Japanese bowl at a museum once where they fixed the breaks with gold. He said it was more beautiful for having been broken." "Kintsugi," Marcus murmured. "The art of precious scars. You know about it." Emma's face brightened. "My father mentioned it once." The memory surfaced unbidden. His father showing him a photograph in a book, talking about how repair could be an act of love, how acknowledging damage rather than hiding it made objects stronger. Marcus had been 18, angry about being expected to join the family furniture business, dismissive of his father's philosophy. He'd scoffed at the idea and left for university the next week, eager to pursue what he considered a real career. Sarah was watching him with curiosity now, the wariness fading slightly. "Are you sure about this?" "Emma becomes very attached to promises. I don't make promises I don't intend to keep," Marcus said, and realized it was true. In business, his word was his bond even when it cost him. He just never applied that principle to anything that truly mattered. Emma carefully, reverently placed Lily in Marcus's hands. The doll was lighter than expected, the wood smooth despite its age and age. He could see where the neck joint had cracked, where the delicate porcelain head had separated. It would require careful work, patience, and skills he wasn't certain he possessed. "I'll take good care of her," Marcus promised. "I know," Emma said with absolute certainty. "You have kind eyes too, like Dad's." After Sarah and Emma left, Marcus sat alone with the broken doll, ignoring the curious glances from other patrons. His phone buzzed insistently, probably his assistant wondering where he was, why he'd missed the morning's conference call. The merger with the Japanese firm needed his attention. The quarterly reports required review. A dozen fires needed putting out. Instead, Marcus carefully wrapped the doll in his silk pocket square and left the café. He had to find his father's old workshop. The storage unit on the edge of the city held everything from his father's shop. Marcus had paid the monthly fee for 15 years without ever visiting, unable to sell the contents but equally unable to face them. Now he stood before the rolling door, key in hand, heart pounding harder than it ever did before board presentation. Inside, dust motes danced in the light from the open door. Workbenches, tools, half-finished furniture pieces, all frozen in time, like a museum to a life Marcus had rejected. His throat tightened. On the main workbench sat his father's tool chest, the mahogany box hand-carved with intricate designs. Beside it, Marcus found what he was looking for, his father's repair kit for delicate work, including fine clamps, specialized glues, and tiny brushes. He also found something unexpected, a letter with his name on it, propped against the tool chest. The envelope had yellowed with age. With trembling hands, Marcus opened it. "Marcus," his father's precise handwriting read, "if you're reading this, I've passed and you've finally come to the shop. I always hoped you would, though I understood why you stayed away. You thought I was disappointed you chose business over furniture making. I wasn't. I was proud you found your own path. But I worried you'd forgotten that building things, whether companies or chairs, is about more than success. It's about creating something that matters to someone. It's about the people whose lives you touch. Remember, the greatest thing I ever built wasn't a piece of furniture. It was you. The cracks in our relationship were my fault for not saying that enough. If you've come here seeking something, I hope you find it. These tools are yours, along with my love." Dad, Marcus, sat on the dusty floor and wept for the first time since he was a child. For the next 3 days, Marcus didn't go to his office. His assistant fielded increasingly frantic calls from investors and partners. His CEO handled the Japanese merger negotiation. The world continued turning without him, and Marcus discovered it was both terrifying and liberating. He worked in his father's shop, learning to use tools his hands had forgotten how to hold. The doll's repair required delicacy and patience. He couldn't simply glue the head back on, that would only lead to another break. Instead, he carefully drilled tiny holes, fitted small wooden dowels to reinforce the connection, and used a technique his father had taught him decades ago for joining pieces that needed both strength and grace. But Marcus went further. Remembering Emma's story about kintsugi, he mixed gold powder into the epoxy resin he used to seal the cracks. When the head was reattached, thin lines of gold traced the damage, highlighting rather than hiding the repair. The doll would never be exactly as it was, but it was whole again. Its history written in precious metal. On the fourth day, Marcus called Sarah. "I have Lily ready." They agreed to meet at a park near Sarah's apartment. When Marcus arrived, he found not just Sarah and Emma, but also a smaller girl who must be Sophie. Both children ran to him with an enthusiasm that made him laugh, a sound that surprised him with its ease. "Did you fix her? Can we see? Does she look the same?" Emma's questions tumbled over each other. Marcus knelt down to their level, something his younger self would have considered undignified. "She's fixed, but she looks a little different. Remember what I said about things being beautiful even when they've been broken?" He unwrapped the doll. For a moment's silence, then Emma gasped. "The gold lines, like the bowl Dad showed me." Sophie, who hadn't spoken yet, reached out and gently touched the golden seams. "Lily sparkles now." "Your father made something beautiful," Marcus said softly. "I just helped her keep being beautiful in a new way. The gold marks where she broke, but also where she healed. Just like..." He paused, surprised by the emotion in his voice. "Just like people." Sarah was crying openly now, and Marcus understood these were different tears than the ones Emma had described. These were tears of relief, of unexpected kindness, of burdens momentarily lightened. "How much do we owe you?" Sarah asked, reaching for her purse. "Nothing," Marcus stood, then reconsidered. "Actually, I wonder if I could ask something instead." Sarah looked wary again. "What? Would you and the girls have dinner with me?" "Not a date," he added quickly, seeing her expression. I've spent so many years building a company that I forgot to build anything else. You remind me that there's more to life than balance sheets and profit margins. I'd like to remember that more often." Emma grabbed his hand. "Will you tell us about your dad, and about fixing things?" "Yes," Marcus promised. "I'd like that very much." Over the following months, Marcus discovered what it meant to invest in something that couldn't be measured in dollars. He taught Emma and Sophie basic woodworking in his father's shop, which he'd had moved to a better location and opened as a community workspace. Sarah, who'd been struggling as a freelance graphic designer, became the workshop's art director, creating beautiful documentation of repairs and restoration. The millionaire who'd once measured worth in acquisitions learned to measure it in repaired toys, taught skills, and the laughter of children covered in sawdust. His company continued to thrive, but now Marcus left the office at 5 to make it to the workshop for the evening classes. His board initially protested, but profits didn't decline. If anything, Marcus's clearer perspective led to better decisions. Emma had been right about his hands. They were good for fixing things. Not just toys, but lives, including his own. Every time he looked at Lily, displayed proudly in the workshop where Emma had insisted she belonged, so everyone can see how beautiful broken things become. He thought about his father's letter. "The greatest thing I ever built was you." Marcus hadn't believed it then, but now, watching Sarah help a single mother repair her son's broken rocking horse, watching Emma teach Sophie how to sand wood smooth, watching a community grow around the simple act of fixing what was broken, he began to understand. His father had built someone capable of success. Yes, but more importantly, someone capable of recognizing what truly mattered. Success wasn't the empire he'd built. Success was the little girl who'd walked into a café and trusted a stranger to care about what she cared about. Success was learning that the cracks in our lives, when faced with courage and care, could be filled with gold. 1 year after Emma had approached him in the café, Marcus stood in the same spot where they'd met. Sarah stood beside him, their hands intertwined. The café had agreed to display Lily in their window, along with a sign explaining kintsugi and the workshop's mission. Already, 3 people had come in asking about repair services. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Emma had asked someone else?" Sarah asked. Marcus squeezed her hand. "Every day, but I'm learning that wondering what if matters less than appreciating what is." Through the window, he could see Emma and Sophie at a nearby table, carefully working on a broken toy another child had brought them. Emma's hands moved with growing confidence, applying the techniques Marcus had taught her. But more than that, she worked with purpose, with love, with the understanding that repair was an act of hope. "Mister, can you fix my toy?" The question had changed everything, because the answer hadn't just been about a doll. It had been about whether Marcus could fix himself, could reconnect with the parts of his humanity he'd buried beneath ambition and success. The answer, written in golden seams and repaired hearts, was yes. Some things once broken can never be exactly as they were, but that doesn't mean they can't be beautiful. Sometimes the cracks become the most precious part, the gold-filled scars that tell stories of survival, resilience, and love. Sometimes the breaking is necessary for us to discover what we're truly made of. and what we're truly capable of becoming. Marcus had spent years building an empire, but it took a 7-year-old girl with a broken doll to teach him that the most important things we build aren't companies or fortunes. They're connections, communities, and the courage to let our own brokenness show, knowing that someone might care enough to help us heal. The gold lines in our lives, the visible repairs, the acknowledged wounds, the honest scars, these don't make us weaker. They make us whole.